Hey everyone, if you guys want to know how I turn myself into an animated version of LeBron James, you're going to want to stick around for this tutorial right now on Mersky Draws. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of Mersky Draws, and if you're a fan or a frequent visitor and you haven't subscribed yet, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for all the updates for all the new content that I'm going to be putting up. Hit like and subscribe too, it really helps me with the algorithm, and thank you in advance for doing so. Alright, let's get this mini tutorial on how I turned myself into LeBron James. So I've animated LeBron twice in the past, and using Character Animator, he was actually one of the first characters that I animated along with Tito M way back when we did Tito M and His Amazing Friends in late 2017, and he was featured again. The LeBron character was recently in the Tito M reboot that's going on right now, and also I want to thank everyone for giving me all the views on that. It's really given a great resurgence to the channel. But for this particular animation, I wanted to focus on the head turner behaviors in Character Animator, as well as adding triggers within the LeBron puppet just to see that you can combine triggers and the actual head movement behavior to give it a more fluid, more or less fluid facial animation type style. And for those of you that are new to Character Animator, there are great basic tutorials that I learned from Dave Warner, who's got a channel called OK Samurai, and he focuses specifically on Character Animator basics, has some advanced rigging tutorials. Everything that I learned, I based off of those, so I would highly recommend going to OK Samurai's channel and just go ahead and, if this is something that you want to get into, go ahead and check them out for all the basics. I'm not going to go over the basics here. This is basically the specific workflow that I did in order to get this LeBron animation the way that I wanted to get it. So let's get started. So the first thing that I did was actually, I have access to an iPad Pro and Procreate. So I actually started designing the character inside of Procreate. And if you want to, you can see on the screen. Okay, yeah, so I started off the design in Procreate. I do have access to an iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil, and Procreate's actually a good tool for being on the go, and usually I am on the go a lot. I can't sometimes design at my computer all the time, so it's good to have this tool with me. So what I did here was actually start designing a LeBron puppet, and I'm just going through the time-lapse replay real quick so you can see that I actually drew all the elements. Now, from that initial sketch, which ends right about here, and I'm able to control this with my finger, I took that and I started layering different elements on top. So the hair element and the beard, and then the ears were separate layers, as well as the background of the head. So when I say the background of the head, it's basically just that brown part of the head is the background of the head. And then I started putting in the nose as a separate layer, the brows as a separate layer, the cheek definement, then the mouth as a separate layer. And then as this replay is going to go through, you can kind of see me start developing different animations with the mouth and the eyes throughout there. This took quite a bit of time, and initially everything that you're going to actually try to animate inside of Character Animator is the most of the time is going to go into the setup, and it's basically not the most difficult part, but it's the most part that's time consuming. So as you can see now, I'm getting the head turn features in there. I'm just testing everything out. I eventually put a neck and shoulders in there for the bust, and then I also designed the crown as a separate element to put on top there, and that was the quick time lapse of that. But all that took about, if I go into the canvas information, statistics, yeah, so total track time was about 4 hours and 3 minutes, throughout a couple days to get all that done. And that's the finished artwork that's there. I went for a more simplistic type of artwork because I didn't want to, for this first type of head turner animation, is really my first time doing it. I didn't want to get too complicated with the facial movements, and just with the artwork itself, I didn't want to be bogged down by that per se. I wanted to really just focus on getting the skill and the basics of the animation down. So as you can see though from here, this is the layer setup that's in here. So if I turn off, I turned off most of everything I don't need to turn off the sketch. So the body shadow is right there, you can see that. And then the bottom of the body, which isn't animated at all, it's just there kind of stagnant. And I didn't need to animate the body, so that's why I just left it like that. But the head, as you can see, the one that's highlighted in blue, was set up as such. So you can see here the head base, separate layer, shadows were a separate layer. Actually, let me go through a step by step in here. So if I were to turn all these layers off, you can see his face and the artwork kind of get deconstructed real quick. And I think this is very valuable for everyone to know the order that everything was put in. I don't think you have to do it in a specific order, but you do have to know your layer hierarchy so that everything appears where it's supposed to be. So I have the head base first at the bottom. Then I popped in a shadow. The shadow is actually kind of one of the last things I did after I got all the elements done, but then I layered it in a specific order so that everything can be seen the way I want it to be seen. So we had the shadow layer, and then the hair was there, and he had the beard. Then I left ear and right ear. Normally, depending on the character you have, you might not have to separate the left ear and the right ear. But I knew it was, and as you do a head turn, I see if I'm looking straight at the camera, as you do a head turn this way, this ear starts to like disappear and this ear becomes more prominent. And the same thing for if you go the other side. So that's why you wanted to have those ears as a separate entity. The nose, the right eye and the left eye. The eyelids. Now you can see how the eyelids themselves are already in a specific folder or a group because with the eyelids I had specific animations that I was going to trigger with a squint, blink, and then the normal eyelids the way it is right now. And without that, it looks like that. And then, so we had the eyelids, and then, yeah, the brow, left brow, right brow, the cheek definement, then forehead wrinkles, just to add a little bit of detail, and then the mouth. And then the mouth, you can see also is in a specific group, because it houses all the visemes that are here. So these are all the different mouth visemes I had to create. And then from the default, you have the D, so D. Then you had that little and then you had the O and R. You get the point. From the way I created these, though, and this might be a helpful tip for everyone. From the default, I had let me see if I still have that layer here. I might have gotten rid of it already. I always get rid of excess layers. Here it is. I always get rid of excess layers that I don't need, just so when the animation process comes around, you don't want to bog the file down with too many layers. But this was the mouth group that allowed me to create all of the mouth visemes. So if I pop that here, right here, so I have a bottom lip here, and it's not labeled, sorry for that, but it's a bottom lip and a top lip here. So what that allows me to do, I have flexibility using the tools inside of Procreate. If I zoom in, to now move this to a specific spot without having to redraw it. And then a lot of times what I'll do is switch to the warp tool. And then if he's doing a specific mouth movement, I can warp the mouth to a specific shape to create that viseme. And that's what I did for all the visemes there. And it actually adds a little bit more fluidity to the lip movement, because when you're moving your lips, it's not like this, right? You're moving your lips like this. Sorry, I need chapstick. But you're moving your lips like this, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility using the warp tool inside of here. And if you needed to have teeth, I would create a layer behind all this, behind the mouths, and then I would wrong brush. Pick something quick. Inking. I'd create the teeth on the background here, and then you can do like the back of the throat and stuff like that. in the back. Just do another layer, and then you combine all the layers after the fact for that. But yeah, that's how I did the mouth. I'm not gonna get into too much detail again. This is just the workflow that I'm gonna show you. But that's how you created the details for the mouth and all the mouth visemes, and that comes in handy when you're gonna doing the pre-work for all this is important, because once you have all this done, it makes the animation inside of Character Animator a little bit easier, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But again, the prep work is all is the key to having the workflow go as smooth as possible, per se. So that was all in the frontal part of the head. So those were all the elements that were there. Now I also still had to do the down, the up, the head turn to the left, the head turn to the right. And eventually, I also had to do kind of a more extreme head turn, which is almost a profile shot. But I did that and ended up doing that in Photoshop, and I'll get into that in a minute also. But I think my workflow from the head went here. We went head turn left. Now, it was important for me to keep all of the facial elements consistent, just so it added to more of a smoother animation effect for everything. So what I did basically, I took the frontal of the head, because again it has all the elements that I've already prepped in there, and I duplicated it. And then what I'm able to do is, because they're all separate elements of the head, I can go into here, select the specific parts. Let's do the actual facial features first. And then I can just shift them to the left, right? And then I can do, after I have the facial features, I'll shift let's see which ear this is. I can shift this ear over here more, and then I can actually take this ear and bring it back more. I think this ear also eventually went below the head base layer, because again, when you're turning your head, your other ear tends to disappear into the background. So that's what I did with that. A little bit tricky here in Procreate. So, and then what I did for each of the elements too is I usually just went to in each individual element and tweaked it somewhat to give kind of like a perspective warp type effect for when you're turning, because when you're showing your face, and I'll do it to the camera, everything's even when you're looking straight at the camera like this, but as you turn, my eye gets a little bit shorter and this eye gets a little bit bigger, because that's the way that you're seeing from that perspective shift. And then this cheek also gets smaller, my ear starts to disappear, and everything like that. So that's basically what I did, and it took a little bit of time to get that correct. And eventually what happened, let me turn this off, I got the right head turn that I wanted inside of here. Actually turn off the other layers. So as you can see, it's basically what it resulted. So it pays to do the prep work ahead of time. I'm going to stress that. As if you didn't learn anything else, it from this video, it's basically you need to make sure that at least that first frontal for the head turn is prepped correctly, so that it'll be easier for you to shift around elements and not have to redraw everything. That's the whole thing with people don't like doing animation sometimes because it'll take too long or the process is just tedious. I'm a father of 3. I work, and doing this animation is my passion, which is why I like to do it. But you want to work as efficiently as possible. So what I did, and with that being said, once I got the head turn left done, and you can see right now as I turn the layer on and off, it animates pretty well. Once I got the head turn left done, I figured without me having to just do everything and shift everything again, what I did was duplicate that entire group. And it's a great feature in Procreate again. If I go into the arrow tool on the top and hit freeform at the bottom and I hit flip horizontal, guess what? There's my right head turn. So it was as simple as that. Now, depending on, sometimes it doesn't come out perfect and you'll have to rejigger it. So it's easy to just kind of move stuff around like we did when you're actually shifting the elements. But now you have that, and I have a head turn left and I have a head turn right. And I just saved myself all the time that it took for me to do that first head turn. Now, it's interesting for the up and down movements. It's kind of the same process, except, again, to the camera. If I'm going down, if I put my head down, the eyes become at a different angle, the nose becomes a different angle, and then their mouth becomes at a different angle. So, with that being said, if you go look at down, you do the same thing, except there's a little bit more tweaking for the down elements. So for each down element, you're going to have to use the warp tool a little bit more. And, there's no specific rule because it's animation. It's basically the rules that you create in your head of how you want it to look. And that's another important thing. If you're going to try to judge yourself on the way other things, animation was done in the past, or just the way that you've seen animation done before, it's going to hinder you because you're going to want to make it look like what you've seen before. And that's the barrier I had to get through, is that it doesn't have to look like anything I've seen before. It's got to look right to me for the most part. And then, once you put it out there, then you let people give their opinion on it, but whatever. But yeah, so I had just manipulated the down elements to the point where it looked like he was actually looking down, and obviously it looks like he's looking down, like not all the way down, but at least it gives a sort of movement to it. And the same thing with the up elements. If you go into the up group, again, it's the same thing. It's looking down, looking up. You're just shifting all the elements up and warping them to a specific look to actually make it look like he's looking up and down. And then I took all of this. I took all of these things that I started off in Procreate, and Procreate is great at handling all this on the go. And then I need a little bit more flexibility. Well, not flexibility per se, because Procreate gave me the flexibility, but I need to refine it. I need to refine the animation elements a little bit more. So I took this and it's really easy in here. If you guys didn't know, you hit share. You can turn this into a Photoshop file up here, and then I saved it to my cloud based hard drive. And if you're hesitant to do this, you're gonna have to put it in a Photoshop file anyway for it to go into Character Animator, because Character Animator only will allow you to manipulate the Photoshop file and or Illustrator file, because it's a part of the Adobe Creative Suite. So once I had gotten as far as I wanted to get inside Procreate, I saved it as a Photoshop file, and then I opened it in Photoshop. So let me bring that up real quick. Okay, so now we're here inside of the Photoshop file. Let me move that over a little bit, because you need that subliminal message in there for you guys to subscribe if you like the content. Here we are inside of here. This is the Photoshop file that ended up being used for the actual Character Animator animation. And what I did was basically just refined everything a little bit more. And I grouped things in the way that Character Animator would best recognize the file structure. So everything that you just saw me do in Procreate was grouped into this one folder called plus LeBron, because it needs a plus in there to know that it's an individual element. And then inside of here, I've made up another folder that was just specifically said head, and then everything from the up down elements, the frontal, left quarter, left profile, and right quarter are in there, labeled as groups with the plus sign next to it. Let's see if you can see that real quick. Still wait for me to zoom in, but you could probably make it out from up there. And the reason there's a plus sign from it again is because the head turner behavior will recognize that you've labeled the layer group appropriately and with those plus signs, and then it'll automatically usually take the head behavior. Once you apply it to the puppet, will automatically put it into that head behavior behavior, I guess, and then it'll recognize it as frontal, left quarter, left profile automatically. And if it doesn't do that immediately, you can actually just go in and tag each of these folders with this appropriate head turner behavior in there. And then I also added the crown because he's King James for this generation at least, and it just felt it emphasized it. Its animation, obviously, so I can do whatever I want. Then I just put that in there for emphasis. But I also, because I wanted it to turn with the head, so there's the crown with the front. There's a crown when he's looking down. And obviously I messed that up, so I fixed it already inside of Character Animator. So with this, that's him looking down, looking up. The crown just kind of shifts around, against animation. It is what it is. That's the crown. What it looks like when he's looking to the left quarter, and then left profile. Actually, the crown just shifts around. You'll see that when you've seen it if you watched the animation already, and that's I had all those different crown elements in there to move when he moves his head. So if you need some time real quick, just pause the video, take a look at how everything was kind of grouped together inside of here. All of this other stuff was just kind of extraneous stuff. This is still the sketch layer stuff that I kind of just left in there. But again, keep it as clean as possible. I know what these layers are, so don't need to actually... It's my choice if I want to clean them or not. But remember, I had the body work as the bottom layer, then I had the shadow in there, which I think got combined into here somehow anyway, so if I turn that off, doesn't matter. But then the LeBron puppet, which basically right now is just the head, and all the different head turn elements for the head turner behavior is in there, along with the crown. Oh, also, I didn't do the profile shot inside of Procreate, forgot the reason, but the profile shots look like that. Now the difference between the left profile and the left quarter is that he's looking a little bit more to the extreme left. Again, this is also just to add a little bit of more illusion of movement in there. So in the left quarter, you can still see, you still see the most of the head elements, and then as you go to the profile, that ear pretty much disappears into the background. And again, it just gives the illusion of movement in there. One thing I might have forgotten to mention also, well, I did mention it, but inside of the eyelids, I do have the blink and the squint squint elements here, and that I'm actually going to apply as a trigger inside of Character Animator that I'm going to control myself. Now, Character Animator has a great facial recognition function to where if you blink your eyes, your character will blink as if it's rigged as such. I liked it. I wanted a little bit more control over when it does it, because sometimes depending on the web camera and the sensors, how close the camera is, it works, but it doesn't always work when you want it to. So I want to set specific things like that to a trigger, and so that I can have him just squint and blink whenever I wanted him to do it. Just so that's for me personally, for that control. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Also, if you didn't want to use the head turner behavior, because again, that behavior is something that is auto-magically kind of applied when you put the head turner behavior on the puppet to go left and right like this. So when you move your head left and right, the character will move left and right. You can also set these to different triggers, which I eventually did for a little bit for more control. The only thing that I think eventually was automatic as far as the computer doing the work was the lip movements for the voice. And let's get into that right now. So we're gonna go right into from here. Once this is all set, I had it saved, and then I brought all those elements into Character Animator, and let's open up Character Animator. And here we are now inside of Character Animator. I had opened up a new, real quick, just in case you don't know how to do it. New project, labeled as such, LeBron head test, because really this is the first time I was doing it. So this LeBron project was a test for me to how to do the head turner the way I wanted it to. I imported the Photoshop file, which is right over here. I put a green screen background, and that's going to be important in a later thing for when you're editing. I put the audio from when LeBron won the championship and said he wanted his respect in there, and then this is the overall scene that's there. So you can see the Photoshop file, once it's imported in here, is basically everything that you see on this left-hand side, and then everything that I put a plus sign on got a crown tag here on the left over here, so that Character Animator knows that it's going to be an individual part that's going to be moving. And if I open up this LeBron layer with the drop down, there's a crown tag at the down, crown tag with it. All these have a crown tag because these are the things that we're going to be using eventually for the head turner behavior. Now the head turner behavior got applied to the actual LeBron. I believe it's here. No, it actually is up here. Sorry. Oh no, you're right. It actually got applied to everything here, and then these are the head turner behaviors over here. I think I turned it off. Let me go ahead and turn that back on, so just for you guys to take a look. Yeah, so the head turner behavior is applied to the actual overall LeBron Photoshop file, which is up top here. You'll see next to LeBron head test, there's a number of all the behaviors that were applied in triggers. And if I hover over that real quick, it'll show you that we had the dragger, eye gaze, face, handle fixer, head turner, lip sync, physics. All those elements are turned on. Oh, you probably can't see it on there, but all those triggers were turned. All those elements were turned on in order to get this to work. And then you can see here on the head turner behavior, for left profile, there's 2, 2, 2, kind of just indicating for the each one had 2 because I had the crown attached to the behavior as well as the head on there. So with all that appropriately tagged as such, automatically, I'm gonna keep using that word, I kind of like it. If I go into the record element, you can now see, it's gonna take a quick second to update any changes that you made in there. But you can see my face on the top here, and that as I'm moving now, so the webcam and Character Animator have mapped out specific parts of my face, as you can see here. Like there's my nose, my eyes for the blink. But specifically, I didn't turn any of the blink elements or anything, or the eyebrow raise thing on. But specifically, we had it for just turning the head. And as you can see, I might be moving at a faster rate than LeBron is. Not in a basketball context, obviously. But it's pretty cool to, as I'm turning, I'm controlling the LeBron puppet. And everything's working as far as the crown, the head turns that I tagged earlier. And honestly, this is the easier part of the process, just getting everything tagged correctly. The initial setup is where you're going to have to make sure your process is refined a little bit more. But as you can see, I didn't tag some of the crown elements to go up and down, so I'm going to have to fix that if I want to fix it later. This animation is done. Just wanted to show you guys. But eventually what I ended up doing, performance-wise, is not use this at all. Well, I used some of it. I won't say at all. I used some of it, but what I eventually did also was make each head turn element here a trigger. And I used the number pad as my triggers just to make it as easy as possible. So left quarter is mapped out to the 1, Left profile is mapped out to the 4, right quarter, so on and so forth. So now, if I go into the record without the camera turned on, if I were to strike the 1 key, he looks left quarter. The 3 key is right quarter. 4 is left profile. 6 is right profile. 2 is down, and 5 is up. And it just gave it a little bit more control than me actually doing the performance. And it's easier for me to kind of just move this back and forth. You can see he moves at a faster, more controlled rate. And then the mouth elements also were separately tagged. And then what I was able to do is take the audio, which is this element down here. Make sure that you select it by holding Shift and the puppet together. You'll be both highlighted in blue. And then you're going to go into timeline, and the compute lip sync take from scene audio. And then once that is done, I did put the green screen as a background element. And then if I go now, if I play it back, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Let's see. Set to here. Yeah, you should be able to hear
it. Means a lot. It means a lot to represent this franchise. Jeannie, I told Jeannie when I came here that I was going to put this franchise back in a position where it belongs. Her late great father did it for so many years, and she just, took it on after that. And for me to be a part of such a historical franchise is it's an unbelievable feeling. Not only for myself, but for my teammates, for the organization, for the coaches, for the trainers, everybody that's here. We just want our respect. Rob wants his respect. Coach Vogel wants his respect. Our organization wants their respect. Laker Nation wants their respect. And I want my damn respect too.
Or not. But you can see he's moving his lips along with the speech. Now, the reason I put the green screen in the back is because when I render this out as an MP4 and then take it into my editing software, I can separate the LeBron puppet from the background by using any keyer effect that you might have in your editing software. And then I have more flexibility as far as lighting him and things of that sort. Lighting him, putting those words that you saw in the front, putting the different background element. I can choose whatever background element. If I had not done that, turn my camera on real quick. If I had not done that, then it would be harder to edit everything and kind of just separate the character from the foreground and from the background. And then it would kind of limit you as far as your editing capability and what you wanted to put on there, because I had lighting effects in the animation. I had a moving background in the animation for those of you that paid attention really closely, and then I was able to put the microphones in the foreground, and I was able to put different lighting elements on just the character itself. Whereas if I had the background attached to the character, then you would basically be lighting the entire frame, so to speak. So that's why I put the green screen in there, because it allowed me to separate them from the background. Now for Tito M, there's a specific background in there because I didn't plan ahead to light him in a different way. But as the editing goes on in the Tito M animations, you'll see the background kind of changes because when he's going into his little song and dance routine, because that's something that I wanted the flexibility of being able to put any type of background in there. So there is a green screen element for specific things in there also. But yeah, that was the basic workflow. Once you had everything the way I wanted it, and I got the performance the way that I wanted it, you go to File, Export, Video via Adobe Media Encoder. It'll prepare it, and then you'll go save it. You can't see any of that on the screen at the moment. Let me go change this source so that you guys can see. There you go. Hopefully you guys can see that a little bit better. So now, once you had everything the way you liked it, you go to File, Export, via Adobe Media Encoder, name it whatever you want. Generally, the file's going to be a H.264 MP4, which is basically what you're going to be using. Hit Save. Adobe Media Encoder will start to open up if you haven't opened it already. I'll give that a sec so I can bring it into the window here. And then you can see that it'll be the last, basically the last thing that was here. And then from here, you hit the play button. Go get a cup of coffee, because generally it'll take a minute or so to render it out. Save it, and then this now, this green screen file with the finished animation would go into my editing software, which for me is Final Cut Pro. So I would switch from PC to a Mac. And then edit as such within Final Cut Pro, and then you get the finished result that you saw with the animation. So hopefully this was a great kind of mini tutorial for you guys. I didn't go too in depth, but hopefully you got the idea of a general overview of how to do it, and hopefully this inspires you to kind of do your own type of animations. I will be doing more of this stuff if you guys like it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment, and then hit the bell for any notifications. Again, if you like this content, let me know down in the comments. I would love to do more of these if you guys want it. This is something that has been a real passion of mine since I was little, and I'm glad I'm in a position now to actually show you guys how I did things, and I'm blessed for all the followers that I have. Thank you so much, and hopefully I can share this passion with you guys a lot more. I will be doing a Halloween special, just to guys let you know there's a Halloween special coming up for Tito M, featuring Jason and Freddy, kind of in this this head turner capacity, with Tito M doing his thing. There's a lot of good stuff have coming up for animation before the end of the year, so hopefully you guys will be able to, I'll be able to share that with you guys sooner rather than later, but obviously it takes some time to get all this stuff done. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this content. There will be more coming. I could get into a little bit more in depth on how I created certain elements of how to do this, but hopefully you got the general overview of how this is done. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.